it's one thing for comedians to make jokes about politicians, and that's something we have in Canada a lot. But when your target is a repressive regime or a military government, the stakes are higher. Your comedy can have more serious, real consequences. Just ask the person sitting to me right now, sitting to my right. Bassem Youssef was known as the Jon Stewart of Egypt. After the country's 2011 revolution, Bassem set up a satirical TV show called Alberna Meg, meaning the show. And for years, he challenged Egypt's authorities through comedy. But they didn't like it, spoiler alert, and there were consequences. And this weekend, Bassem Youssef is in Canada. He's performing at the inaugural Festival of Arabic Music and Arts in Toronto. But first, Bassem Youssef,
Hi.
welcome to Q.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
I'm so sorry you had to be here on the coldest day we've had all year.
I'm sorry that you have to be living here all year.
Well, people might not know, so in the middle of the Egyptian Revolution, you start a YouTube series, and then it ends up getting picked up on TV. What were you seeing that you thought needed satire?
Well, if you lived during the January 2011, there was two complete different realities. There was the reality in the streets, which are an uprising, people calling for freedom, for change, and in the media, state-run media, there was a totally different reality. There was a reality that suggested and actually tried to convince people that this was no revolution; it was a conspiracy read by everybody in the world, and it was ridiculous. That's the stories that they were coming up with. I mean, Breitbart, Fox News, and Infowars in America should actually sit and learn because it was getting ridiculous. So I made the videos making fun of what I saw on television. And I really didn't think too much about it. I thought that, like, I will have 10,000 views and that will be fine. I was not even a YouTuber. I was a heart surgeon, ready to get to start a new career in Cleveland because I was just accepted in a pediatric heart surgery fellowship there. And basically, I was like, winging it, to spending time doing these videos. And then instead of 10,000 views, I had 5 million people watching. And then suddenly every single network in the country wanted to have the show.
When the show eventually does go to air, by the way, it went to air on a network called CBC, which is very strange because this
we have like a smaller channel for a year. And then we went to CBC. And it was like a live show audience, which never had it before in the Middle East.
It's very strange because this network's called CBC.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's two. I'm sorry so far.
I don't know, guys, how you live here. I'm so sorry. It's like or actually, now you just brought me the memories. I'm gonna pretend I'm crying. Like that.
How did it feel when those first shows started going to air on television?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, like everything that I was doing there, it was a first time for me. First time I do YouTube, first time I go on television, then first time I do on stage, and we didn't have any idea what to expect. And then it exploded, and then we eventually ended up with like 40 million people watching each episode. Basically, 40% of the population watching the show, whether you hate it or you like it. Kind of like the people who hated it because of we were making fun of their ideologies, of the thing that believed in, and that kind of pumped up our ratings because hate watching is a great way to pump your rating.
So people were watching you because they agreed with you, and people were also watching you when they didn't agree with you.
Oh yeah. I mean, even the religious media, like the Islamist media, they would play the show again on their shows for the whole week to rip me off, but they were basically increasing the base of my audience, which was very interesting to see. So a lot of people were watching it. I offended a lot of people. I offended people who were pro-Islamist, pro-military, and I ended up having my show canceled twice, and the satellite signal jammed twice, and then I had to leave the country eventually.
And there's people on TV wondering whether they have the right to kill you.
Oh, yeah. That was a very peaceful sheikh who came up on his show, and he said, a lot of people emailed me and called me on the phone, and they're asking me, is it halal for me to kill Bassem Youssef? And I tell them, not now. So he was very decent and very, it's kind of considerate. I was a little bit pissed. It's not now? Who's your priority now?
Yeah. When I was watching the documentary about you, the one thing that came to mind was that through all of this, when people are threatening to kill you on television, when your staff is worried about leaving the studio, you portray to them a great sense of calm and a great sense of peace And I can only imagine that you may not have been feeling that way inside.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I was going through a very tough patch here. It was very difficult to project this calmness, as you said, while having everything happening around you. But like the one thing that I was thinking of is, if I let that get to me, I will end up doing a bad show. And if you did a bad show, nobody will care about you. So basically, people don't care about your excuses. People don't care about your flu, what you have, the hangover you had from last night. They care about like what they expect when they listen to your show or watch my show. They want service, and they want the best show ever. They don't care. No, nobody cares about you. So basically, I said, all right, you know what? I'm just gonna do the best show ever because that's the only thing that I'm supposed to do. And I had to I had to separate myself of what's happening around me.
How do you do that?
A lot of denial,
Yeah.
living in denial, focusing on. We were kind of like focusing on one word at a time, one line at a time, one joke at a time. We're just like focusing on just producing a good show.
There's one thing. I mean, I was talking about how there's a lot of political satire in Canada and political satire in the U.S. It's one thing to make jokes here. It's another thing to make joke when there's bloodshed in the streets, when people are actually dying in the streets in front of you. How does comedy change then when the stakes seem higher?
It changes a lot. I mean, I remember there was so many episodes that like I went into a fight with my staff because like, well, there are just people killed, and then I just had to step in. I said, guys, you know what? This is our reality. People will be killed every day. There will be demonstrations every day, and we can't cancel our show. I mean, this is the only thing that we're doing. I mean, we're just doing our job, and we're trying to do that without being insensitive. We're trying to do that without like talking about the people who were killed. We're just and kind of like trying to find the humor in a tragedy is extremely difficult, especially if people, especially this is like, when they say comedy is tragedy plus time.
Plus timing.
We
Yeah.
didn't have time.
Yeah.
I mean, the equation was flawed on our side. We just had tragedy, and we had to bring out comedy in it.
So now in the U.S., when you watch American political satire, and I know you're a great fan of it, but do you ever watch it and go, oh, but well, the stakes are so much lower, though?
Well, I mean, it's different.
Yeah.
I mean, like you can't really. I mean, because people will say, "Oh, Jon Stewart had a much lower stakes than you," but like without Jon Stewart, I wouldn't have been inspired. I mean, at least like you're watching them. It's like, this is what's supposed to be. This is what the political satire is supposed to look like. So that inspires a lot. That inspires us a lot, and that gives. I learned a lot, and it's an educational experience for me going on. It's. So no, I don't say like, I have bloodshed and you don't. No,
If you're just tuning in,
I don't do that.
if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Q. My guest is comedian and satirist Bassem Youssef. Your show becomes a litmus test for LCC. Your show becomes a litmus test for the regime's tolerance of criticism and dissent.
And he failed.
He failed.
He failed.
How did it feel to be a litmus test like that? As to see, like you were kind of the test to see what you could say.
First time ever somebody ever told me that you're a litmus test. I'm kind of flattered.
as a doctor, I'm sure
I'm
you
flattered and weirded out in the same time. How I feel like a litmus. So it's kind of like actually you're right. People were waiting for it's like everybody said like if Al Barnamig would continue, it would mean that this regime, there's hope in this regime.
Yeah.
But, the regime was a disappointment, like always. So it kind of raised up or kind of went down to people's expectations, I guess.
Why are they so afraid of satire?
Because satire strips you from the one thing that matters and the one thing that actually is going on to you, which is fake respect and fake fear. And that's the thing, like the authoritarian leaders, they want this respect surrounding them, And if you make fun of them, you take this away.
Right.
Because they have nothing else going on for them. They have no achievements, they have no policy, they have no thought process, nothing. And you can see that with a little bit of difference, of course, with Donald Trump. Donald Trump, he did something that no other. I mean, he was like doing stupid things right and left. But there's one thing that really pissed me off that he did this year when he canceled his appearance at the Correspondents' Dinner.
The White House Correspondents' Dinner. This is where a comedian gets up and makes jokes about the president.
Yeah, and the president is right there.
Yeah.
So by him doing that was like a real like kind of separation and departure of like an American tradition that's been going on. I mean, the only one who didn't go was Ronald Reagan, and he was just shot. And that's the reason why he didn't go. But you have all of these presidents, Republicans and Democrats, going there, giving the chances for the people to rip them apart. And so he doesn't have the idea of what does it mean to be a public servant. And this is what the authoritarian leaders do. They think they are above reproach, above accountability, and you cannot make fun of me, because basically what satirists do is like we tell everybody that the emperor is naked.
What I find so funny about your story is that you satirized and made fun of everybody, including leaders who were against other leaders. It seemed like no matter who you were satirizing, you were supporting the opposition, even though you were also making fun of the opposition.
Yes, yes. Well, I mean, I think like to be a good satirist, you have to be an equal opportunity offender.
Yeah.
You know, you like, and when we made fun of the Islamists, and when they were gone, a lot of the pro-military people like hated me because they are expecting me to make fun of people who are in jail or dead. You can't. That doesn't the way doesn't the things way like go. I mean, satire is always directed to people in power, or that this power is political leaders in power or media that is in power. And this is what we did, and it pissed off a lot of people. And I'm happy that I lost a lot of friends over this.
You lost
And
a lot of friends?
oh my God, friends, family members.
Really?
Oh yeah, they believed a lot of the propaganda that was said about me. A
And they
lot
wouldn't
of,
just call you and ask you?
no. They were sharing horrible stuff on Facebook, things that like suggest that I'm a spy, that I'm an operative, that I'm on a payroll from the CIA, which is like I would have been in a much better place.
Not only do you lose a lot of family and friends, you end up having to leave Egypt. You end up fleeing Egypt. You end up moving to the United States. Does it feel worth it right now?
Does it feel well? Hey, I'm in Canada.
You're here on cue. I know. So
I'm
you
in the
made it. I mean,
coldest
this is
day in the
great.
year,
Yeah.
So of course it's worth it.
Yeah.
I mean, after all these years, after all this trip, I'm ending up here.
Yeah, I know.
So it's been worth it. Absolutely.
Tell me the truth. Tell me the truth.
I mean, the queue, man. I mean,
Come on.
yeah,
Come on, man. Come on.
That's a cool letter. Well, here's the thing. I mean, when I think about it, it's like, what would have been the alternative? To cave in, to be part of the establishment, to do. I mean, because I was offered that. I was offered actually to continue the show and do light comedy, to kind of like to make them pass the litmus test, to give them a chance to have put makeup on the face of the oppressive regime. And you cannot do that because that's not comedy. That's not the satire. Here comedy becomes a distraction. So yeah, it is worth it. I'm happy that I did that. I mean, I might have ended up with much more money, but like absolutely no respect. But and you know, it's an interesting journey now that I'm trying to reinvent myself in America, trying to do like to reinvent my career in a different language for a different audience in a different country. So let's see.
When you watch Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Fallon, like we talked a little bit about, the stakes are a little bit lower, but you don't really think about that too much. But however, like, how do you feel about the state of political satire in the U.S. coming from that you had such an effective platform in Egypt?
Well, I think they're doing their job. I mean, like, you know.
Do you really?
Yeah, they are. I mean, like, they're what they're expected to do. I mean, it's if there's something ridiculous that's happening in the political sphere, they comment on it, and they do a good job doing their job, like making fun of it and bringing it up to the people. A lot of people would say, well, they're not making a change. Well, comedians are not supposed to make the change. It's the people who are making the change. People listen to these commentaries, and it's up to them to make the change. A satirist's role ends at the edge of the stage or the edge of the TV set.
So how do you feel about this discussion that happens in the media now of whether satire, whether comedy can actually do anything?
No, comedy doesn't do anything.
Right.
The only thing that comedy and satire does is bring more people to the table to discuss matters that might otherwise be dull or boring. And it's up to the people to go. Comedians don't go vote for the people. It's the people that go down and go to the polling stations and they make the vote and they make the change. So what happens in Virginia and New Jersey a couple of days ago, that people actually went to the streets and they voted. That's a change. All right? But if they would have stayed at home listening to Jimmy Kimmel and watching John Oliver and watching Trevor Noah and just laughing their asses off, and when election day comes and they don't do anything, comedy doesn't really help you.
So how are you adjusting to it? How are you? You mentioned you're here now in the U.S. You know,
How am I adjusting? Well, I'm just quite well. I'm living in the United States.
yeah.
I'm living in Los Angeles. I go to do hot yoga at Modo Yoga, which is known in Canada as Moksha Yoga.
Mm.
So you see, there's so much in common between
I
us, more
mean,
than you
there's
know.
such a commonality right now.
I know.
I know. I
you
feel
see,
it.
so we just connected on hot yoga
I
right
feel
now.
like, yeah,
Like
we're gonna go do
Moksha
it
and
right
Modo.
after this. But you're feeling good. You're doing all right.
Oh yeah! Oh my God! I mean, like I'm living in Los Angeles. We have something called the sun, and it's warm. I wish you guys would be introduced to it.
Do you ever think you'll be able to return to Egypt and perform there?
Not in the near future. I don't think so.
No.
No.
Do people ever reach out still?
Well, I mean, the authority always reaches out, wanting me to come back with certain deals and certain arrangements, but like
What do you mean?
yeah, it's like come back, do the show, and so do we tell everybody that we're democratic, take that much money and do the show.
Really?
Oh yeah, I mean 3-4 times more. Like I mean, it's got every 3-4 months I get the same offers, but like the price keeps going up.
This is the government contacting
Oh
you
yeah,
about this.
oh absolutely.
And what do you say? What do you say when you get those responses?
Well, I tell them F you.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you can't do that. Yeah.
Bassem Youssef, thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much.